You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Tigers go on the road and they beat Florida 45-35. So LSU moves to 5-2 overall. They are 3-1 in the SEC. And Saturday really felt like a huge step forward for the program. Because we've seen this team respond when they've been down in games. I mean, they were down double digits to Florida State, rallied, nearly won. They were down 13 to Mississippi State, rallied and won. Down 17 to Auburn, rallied and won. I mean, there was an undeniable truth about this team, which is that these guys have bought in and they will fight to the end. I mean, they are not going to fold like LSU did at times a year ago, which was concerning. LSU folded at Ole Miss a year ago. They folded at Kentucky a year ago. Against Tennessee, they just got beat by a better team, which I think we can now validate. Tennessee is really good. Like the loss to Tennessee is a little more comfortable today after what you saw what Tennessee did to Alabama on Saturday, putting up 52 points. But what we learned about LSU, I think, is how they responded to that loss. You know, you lose 40-13, then you got to pick yourself up and go on the road to Gainesville in a tough road environment, a packed house where those people were jacked up. I don't know if you knew it was Tom Petty night. Joe Tessitore made sure to remind you that about every other play. But to go into that road environment and to get down immediately, just like they did, I mean, that had to actually be very comfortable for LSU to give up the 47-yard kickoff return to start the game, and on the second play, 51-yard touchdown over the top, and you're down 7-0. But it was a very familiar situation for LSU, and all they did from that point was score on 6 consecutive possessions. An incredible day for the LSU offense, which is what many people were waiting to see. As a matter of fact, after the game, Brian Kelly was asked about the offense. It's number 8, Muse, from the postgame, about the guys getting more comfortable with the offense, which you clearly saw on Saturday.
Our guys are starting to feel a lot more comfortable with the offense and what we're trying to do with it. The outside zone is complementing now the inside zone and the zone read. You can see the passes off of it now. You saw a lot more 7-man protection, the ability to push the ball down the field. We missed a double move that's wide open. But you can start to see those things starting to come together, and I think our guys obviously see that and feel more comfortable.
I thought Mike Denbrock called a great game. And a lot of you have criticized him at times this year. If you're going to criticize when things aren't going well, you have to give praise when things are. And although I don't think some of the offensive issues this year have been Mike Denbrock's fault, I think it's been a general lack of talent and execution for what you want to call. I thought he called a brilliant game on Saturday. You saw a wide receiver screen to Malik Neighbors. LSU had a 3rd and 2. They ran an option shovel pass to Mason Taylor, which was very creative. Your third quarter touchdown run for Jayden Daniels when he ran an option to the weak side to the left. You had trips to the right. The whole field was shifted to the right side, and they ran a zone read with Jayden. He pulled it, went around left end and scored, just beat the defender to the goal line. Very creative play calling. Jayden Daniels, I think, is probably what most people are going to talk about today. It's where the conversation will begin for most everyone, because that's what everyone has kind of been waiting to see, right? And you had a quarterback that played his best game in an LSU uniform, by far, and he took chances and opened it up and gave his receivers opportunities to go get 50-50 balls, which we've wanted to see. And they rewarded him for that throughout the course of the game. Even one that was the 29-yarder to Brian Thomas that was overturned on review, which I'm not sure how that was overturned on review, but that's what you really wanted to see. You know, the touchdown pass to Brian Thomas was a 50-50 ball, and Jayden put it up in the end zone, and Brian Thomas, who's a freak, went and got it. The 54-yard touchdown pass to Jayden Jenkins, that was a 3rd down play where you had, as Brian Kelly referred to it, they had an ice, is what they called it, where it was a hard count intended to draw the defender offside to get a free play. It worked beautifully, and Jayden put it up, and Jayden Jenkins went and ran under it for a 54-yard touchdown. That's what we've been waiting to see. Now, make no mistake, Florida's not a good football team. Like, their defense is bad. We talked about it all last week. But we also talked about the week before how Tennessee's pass defense was bad and LSU was not able to take advantage of it. Part of that's the offensive line, which I'm going to talk about next. But Jayden Daniels, 23 of 32 for 349. He threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 3 touchdowns, something that has never been done by a quarterback in LSU history. 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns in the same game. And what's more, Jayden's continued to show you that in the big moments, he elevates his play. On third down, Jayden Daniels was 8 of 9 for 173 yards in the touchdown. That was the 54-yarder to Jeray Jenkins. 8 of 9 on third down. The only incompletion was the one in the fourth quarter on the crossing route that he threw to Kayshawn on 3rd and 3 that was a little behind him, but Kayshawn still got his hand on it, probably should have caught. So when the moments have gotten bigger, Jayden has elevated his play. He's done that since the fourth quarter against Florida State and carried that all throughout the year, which is great to see. But I do think a massive part of why LSU had success was the offensive line. And yes, it goes without saying getting Will Campbell back mattered tremendously. And for his efforts, Will Campbell on Monday was named by the SEC as the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, which, look, when you put up the type of performance that LSU did in that ball game offensively, you're going to reward somebody on that line. And it just so happened to be Will Campbell, who also was back a week after his health scare, which kept him out of the Tennessee game. So, listen, against Tennessee, as much as we want to talk about anything that could have gone wrong against Tennessee, accuracy throwing the ball, running plays, whatever you want to talk about. Ultimately, you cannot get an offense off the ground if your line doesn't block. And against Tennessee, you allowed 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. You ran it 28 times for 55 yards. You got dominated at the line of scrimmage, which did not allow anything to go. That's why after the game, Brian Kelly, when he was asked about Jayden Daniels, if they considered making a change, he said, it was Cobble who asked the question, and Kelly said, yeah, well, we see it differently. So the quarterback was actually something we thought did well. It was a good part of our offense today. And he was right. Not that anything was really good, but you can't do anything if your offensive line doesn't give you an opportunity to do it. And I get it. You're playing without Will Campbell, and Dellinger went down, so your entire left side of your line, of a line that's already starting two true freshmen, and then you lose your whole left side of your line. I get it. That's tough. But you had Will Campbell back. They started Miles Frazier in place of Garrett Dellinger at left guard, which is where he started the season opener against Florida State, and you just held up much better against Florida. You allowed 1 sack, which was on the game's first possession. Will Campbell did allow it, but was stellar after that. 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. You ran 38 times for 179 yards, averaged nearly 5 yards a carry. Your offensive line was great. Your offensive line was fantastic. They gave Jayden Daniels a clean pocket, time to throw, time to evaluate the field, and to hit his open receivers, and that's why the offense moved the way it did, and it was great to see. Hopefully that's a big step forward for this offensive line moving through the remainder of the year, because as we're going to continue to talk about this, as much maligned as the line has been, and justifiably so, and look, a lot of the moving pieces. You're starting 2 freshmen. You've got a first-time starting center. It's been musical chairs. You've started 6 line combinations in 7 games. But when you start to look ahead, you can see, man, those 2 true freshmen next year with all of this experience are going to be really good. Charles Turner probably returns next year as a 5th-year senior as your starting center. Garrett Dellinger, one of your best offensive linemen, will be back next year as well. Anthony Bradford should return. So your entire starting 5 should be back, and you're going to have one of the better offensive lines in the entire SEC next year. That's how you can talk about progress and growing and building and developing, and you're seeing it. Now, a couple other things. Thought Damian Ramos with the kick to ice it at the end was huge. I mean, it was not a gimme. It's a 47-yarder in a hostile environment, very loud. We've seen those situations, and he drilled it to put you up 10. Because if he misses that kick, Florida's got the ball, the chance to go tie or maybe win the game with the 2-point conversion. So Damian Ramos with the big kick there to ice it was awesome. Look, there was bad. The 51-yard touchdown on the second play of the game. The receiver got behind Jark Bernard-Converse. Man, the first play of the fourth quarter, you allow an 81-yard touchdown run by Anthony Richardson, who's dynamic, but Micah Baskerville and Greg Brooks and there was somebody else who all had a shot. There was 3 different players that had a shot at it. I believe it was Joe Fouché, who all had a shot at him, and they're trying to strip the ball instead of get him on the ground. Special teams was a problem again. You muffed a punt. You allowed the 47-yard return on the game's opening kickoff. When you punted in the fourth quarter, you had an illegal formation on the punt. I mean, everyone that's going to complain about special teams, you're right to complain about special teams because every week it's something new. And this is sounding like a broken record at this point, and my guess is in the offseason, Brian Kelly is going to have to address this and replace Polian. I don't know that he will. I'm not sitting here saying fire the coach. I don't know how you could justify retaining him after this, but it continues to be troublesome. But overall, for this team, the progress that they have made is undeniable. And that's what you want to see in this first year as they're building, and as Brian Kelly said often, creating good habits and creating culture. And wins like that are part of it. And it was historic. It's just the second time in the history of this series that LSU's won 4 in a row against Florida. The only other time it's happened, 1977 to 1980. Brian Kelly also becomes the first LSU coach ever to win at Auburn and at Florida in the same season. That's a wild stat, but it's true. It hadn't happened before. It goes to show you how hard it is to go on the road and win. But they've managed to do that in 2 really tough places already this year, at Auburn and at Florida. And with road trips still ahead to Arkansas and Texas A&M, these experiences are going to serve you well later this season and obviously moving forward. So for a lot of reasons, the win Saturday was big. And look, we could talk about the SEC West. I mean, with Alabama's loss, I mean, if you beat Ole Miss on Saturday, you lead the SEC West. As crazy as that is, you lead the SEC West going into November if you win on Saturday. But I don't know that we need to get that far ahead of ourselves or get to that yet. The bottom line is that it was a really nice win for LSU to go on the road to Gainesville, to bounce back after the Tennessee loss, to see the offense churn the way that it did, the offensive line to play really well. That's the progress that you hope to see each week with this team, and you are seeing. And now you got a big opportunity this week with the top 10 Ole Miss team coming into Baton Rouge. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.